People who lived out your sexual fantasies and regretted it. What happened? Story 1. GF at the time and her friend decided they wanted to have a threesome. It was just me having sex with one of them until I asked them to switch out. Went on like that for a while. I imagine it's more fun when everyone is actually involved the whole time, not just a third person sitting off to the side waiting for their turn. Reply. If I wanted to disappoint two women at the same time, I would just go get dinner with my mom and grandmother. Reply 2. A former work friend had a threesome with his FWB and her best friend. His FWB surprised him and he said it was a letdown. The friend gave him the worst BJ he ever had, according to him, and months later he told me the friend gave both him and his FWB herpes. 0 out of 10 he would not recommend. Story 2. Been to several orgies. They are mostly annoying. E.g. I was having a great time with some random rich girl, hottie riding me cowgirl style, so I'm on my back, and this idiot of a dude next to me decided to sit up using his elbow on my forehead as leverage. His sweat rolled down from his arm, off his elbow and into my eye. I sat up suddenly to sort that out, ruining the situation with the girl on me. Just as I cleared my stinging eye, I watched him putting on my socks. Reply. Putting on your socks, bastard. Story 3. Nuru Gel. I'd found some Soplan videos back in the early days of the internet and was fascinated. When I found myself in a relationship, time to bust this bucket list item outright. This was still early enough that it wasn't on sale at every adult store, so I ended up ordering the powder off a janky looking website and waiting like a month and a half for shipping from Japan. First problem, the air mattress wouldn't fit in our bathroom, so ended up setting it up in the spare bedroom on top of tarps. Then you have to run from the bathroom to the bedroom dripping wet since it's recommended you be damp to start. The massage bit and foreplay actually are fun. That shit is slick, so you can easily give a really good massage, and during oral it's fun to be able to just slide around. The problem comes when you want to get to the actual sex. With no close walls you got no traction. That shit is slick. At one point the girl shot out from under me like a champagne cork. Every time you thrust she slides away. You try to find a foot purchase but you've been slinging that shit all around, so the tarp is like a banana peel minefield. As the gel dries out it starts to get sticky, so now you've got some traction and the fucking begins, but once you start sweating cork time, again. You give up on the air mattress and go to rinse this shit off so you can just have sex. Ever try and take a shower covered head to foot in lube and sexually frustrated? You think you got all, try to have a little shower sex but end up in the tub as a tangled mess. Then you've got cleanup. That shit just absorbs water, so you're rinsing and rinsing and rinsing the tarp and air mattress. You have to walk of shame them downstairs to the clothesline so they can dry. Not enough room in an apartment to dry a tarp and an air mattress. Your neighbors will not know exactly what you got up to, but they know you were up to something that needed a tarp and a second bed. You are now those people. Reply. This is hilarious, but explain like I'm 5 me here. WTF is this stuff? What is it for? Is this its intended purpose? Reply 2. It's a natural lubricant made from kelp. It absorbs a fuck ton of water and stays slick. If you want to see some really scary stuff, they are working on industrial lubricants made from hagfish slime. 1 drop of that shit can turn a gallon of water into slippery goo. There are pictures online from an accident involving a truck carrying some. They had to shut the road down for days. It's pretty much just blast the area with Dawn and water till it breaks down. Story 4. How to FFM. Wife left me for a woman after she decided she liked pussy better. In fairness, I think we're both happier now. Reply. You should play her at her own game and get some dick to kinda round off that chapter of your lives, bro. Story 5. I hooked up with a MILF once. It's true what they say about older women in experience, because this woman was practically breakdancing on my dick. She could have been in Cirque du Soleil, or at least the Spider-Man musical. What I wasn't ready for was the next day when her son, who looked like he was about 2 years younger than I was, sauntered into the kitchen while I was eating breakfast. I had to sit across from him while she tried to encourage us to get to know each other. I will never get the, "Oh, she made you waffles?" She never makes me waffles, look of disdain out of my head. Reply. Happened to me when I was younger and was when I was even more fucking stupid than I am now. Met her in a bar. Wow, this woman is fit. Ran like 5 miles a day, took great care of herself, yada yada. Dated her for a few months. She'd pick me up in her brand new Mitsubishi Spider convertible. I was living with my parents at the time while I was in college. Didn't think much of it since I was an older student after military service, so maybe she's like early 30s? We couldn't go over to her house because her kid was at home. I'm assuming he's like 12 or whatever. So we fucked a bunch in my car. Y'all ever bang in the back of a 1999 Ford ZX2? It's like trying to have group sex in the back of a 60s Volkswagen. Eventually we break up. Buddy calls me up and mentions that he bumped into her. They got to talking, and he finds out she's actually 44. I was at 26. Everything suddenly made sense. I had been driving her around in her car, hitting clubs and bars that she wanted to go to, because she was showing me off to her friends. She'd buy me outfits, pay for my drinks, etc. I found out later her son was 20 at the time. Him and I could have had some beers together. Story 6. Saw a porno of a construction worker. I'm into construction workers lol, banging his girl in the backseat of his work truck on his lunch break. It was so hot I wanted to recreate it. My husband is in construction and happened to be working across the street from my job, so I asked him to come fuck me on my lunch break. He shows up and we get to it. It smells so bad because it was hot and he had been sweating all day. The truck was bouncing around and we were in a busy parking lot, so I'm sure people noticed. On top of that, I had to walk back into work with cum leaking through my pants. 10 out of 10 would not do again. Reply. Yeah, people always forget about post-nut maintenance. Story 7. The threesome broke my marriage. Reply. Next time try inviting your partner to it. Reply 2. For my birthday, my wife asked me which of her friends I wanted to have a threesome with. Apparently, I was only supposed to pick one. Story 8. Early 20s and I had a sexy granny fetish. Went to a Chinese restaurant with a bar that had a reputation as being a pickup joint for 50, 60, 70th-year-olds. Went to the bar with a few friends for kicks and giggles and started chatting up ladies. I settle in on this older lady wearing a white leather suit, pants, vest and jacket. Her tits were selling out and she looked good. Lights were low, so it made her features softer. We decide to leave and go back to her place for some fun. We hop in her car and head out. We get to her place and with real lights you can see she's much older than I, though she was and rougher looking too. I'm here and say, well, her body is good so I can get through this. We go to the bedroom and she goes to the bathroom to freshen up. Soos, I'm out naked and OMG. The loose skin, it was sagging and wrinkled. Then the bush, it was huge, she probably had not trimmed it in years. I could go on, but you can see where I am going. I still have sex with her and it was gross. The worst part was he talking dirty in a granny voice. Since she drove me there, I was basically trapped. I should have called a cab, but I was broke. I stayed the night and we fucked a couple more times, at her insistence. She was actually really good at oral and me being 21, it was no problem getting me up again. Eventually she got tired and fell asleep. Woke up, she made me breakfast. Then I hopped in the shower and she came in and we had sex again. She then said she would drive me home. As I got dropped off, my mother came out and saw me get out of the car. The worst was the lady saying and my mom hearing her thank me for the fun time. My mom didn't not bring it up but didn't talk to me for a few days and had a super disgusted look on her face for a few days. Edit. I do not remember the specifics on the breakfast, but it was really good and she made percolated coffee which was great. Edit. This took place in 1990. The lady is probably not with us anymore. Reply. I have one friend that hooked up with an old woman and he said the sounds were the biggest turn off. Said she was moaning like a ghost in an old episode of Scooby-Doo. Story 9. My friend's hot older sister has a lesbian wife and they'd always make threesome jokes with me around. Long story short, one day we all went out, got drunk, wound up back at their place, and the sister pulled me into her room and we started hooking up. I was under the impression it was all consensual and the wife would be into it and join in. Instead, she walked in and freaked out and I had to take full blame in order to protect their marriage. The sister went publicly sober a month later with a new sobriety Instagram page and I haven't talked to them since. Story 10. Had a threesome with 2 friends from the bar once. I finished way too early and got kicked out of the room for the next 45 minutes. Reply. Kicked out? What kind of friends wouldn't let you watch at least? Story 11. Swinging. Went into it thinking my marriage with my wife was unshakable. A few couples in and she fell in love with the husband of one of the couples we played with regularly. Currently resulting in divorces for both of us. Was definitely not worth the anxiety, depression and severe drinking problem I'm left with. Reply. Sorry, man. Sex is tricky. It's weird that some people can do it and develop no feelings, while others just can't help but fall in love. Story 12. One time I was on a Tinder date and the fine young lady offered me a blowjob on the ride home. A guy in a tricked-out Honda brake checked me and she not only bit my dick but also, since she was playing with my balls, squeezed them so hard that for the briefest of moments I became a squeaky toy. Reply. Who tailgates while getting a blowjob? That's the real mistake here. Story 13. Wanted to watch my GF have sex with another guy. Accomplished this by coming home unexpectedly and her and some guy were on the couch going at it. 100% turnoff, would not recommend. Story 14. Bisexual MMF threesome with a couple who were married. I had an amazing time, but apparently the other guy had too much fun being pegged while fucking his wife, or she interpreted it that way, and their marriage fell apart because, you've never acted that way when we were having sex. Curtis, if you're reading this, hit me up, dude. It was a lot of fun before your ex-wife made everything complicated. Reply. I've never rooted for a dude to get boned, but here I am. Curtis. Go get that D, bro. Story 15. This only half counts, but hooking up with a 19-year-old from work. I was 27 at the time. They were the only person I regularly interacted with that was hot as hell, took amazing pictures on Instagram, and from the stories she told, her sex life was crazy. Not to mention we're both nerds for a lot of the same stuff. How could I not fantasize? Well, long story short, we hooked up and I found out I'm just another asshole in a long line of dudes my age and older that she chose for some dark reasons I don't want to get into. Because I wasn't a stranger, I got to hold her while she cried about everything in the morning, and she was straight up apologizing to me for involving me with her trauma. Absolutely heartbreaking. I regretted it a lot in that moment, and still feel a little disgusting, dumb for how things started. But 2 years later and she's my best friend and the most amazing partner I could ask for. After that first night we unpacked a lot of stuff and took things really slow. I didn't want to disappear on her or seek anything sexual, I was so afraid of hurting her. We kept talking for months and started to hang out again, and at some point it just clicked and we started officially dating. The age gap is really the only issue in the relationship, mostly in terms of navigating each other's friend groups. TLDR fantasized about having a sleazy hookup with the college girl from work. Turns out the hookup wasn't worth it, but dating her absolutely was. Edit. A whole discussion happened. I can't pick any single comment to reply to, but I'll give some additional context for those creeped out. Our relationship only works because I had been stuck for quite some time in food service. Years and years of robotically going to work, smoking myself out, and playing some game until I'm exhausted enough to sleep. All my life experience has given me is a lot of media to reference and the knowledge that getting drunk or high every night isn't gonna make me feel better. I don't disagree with anyone who thinks the initial hookup was gross. It was the fantasy one regret, because if I had my head screwed on straight, I would have turned down that first encounter. Everything that happened afterwards came from me trying to do right by her, and we didn't launch into a relationship. I call her my partner more than any other title because at this stage in our lives, that's what we are. I'm not her father figure or anything close to that. She isn't afraid to tell me when I'm procrastinating or undershooting my potential. She has her own friends and hobbies and interests outside of me. She is beautiful, fun, goofy and kind. She could have anyone she wants. She kicks ass. If she wakes up one day and decided she's outgrown me, well, that's okay. I love her deeply and would never seek to control or guide her actions. More than any relationship I've had, we feel like a team, and that's what counts to me. Story 16. Definitely way more boring than the other stories, but when I finally hooked up with my childhood crush after over a decade or us having a sitcom-like relationship, we hooked up in that post, but clarity hit like a train. The sex wasn't great. She was very clearly just using me to get over her ex. She probably only liked me in between dating other guys out entire history together. And afterwards it was clear that she didn't care about the sex at all. I did all the work, she starfished the entire time, and she left immediately after. It was soul-crushing, but I'm glad it snapped me out of whatever trance I was in. Edit. Since this is my most liked comment, I guess I should add that there was no post-nut clarity, because I never finished. She brought up her sex tape with her ex. My soldier wasn't standing tall, then she subtly blamed me for the bad experience. Reply. I feel you, my dude. I had long fantasized about my stepbrother's ex-GF, but it was something that was never going to happen. Until it did. I came home to visit. I had moved out of state, and went to the bar with some friends. I saw her there, dancing and drinking. I said hi but went on about my night. She calls me at about 1:45, bars close at 1, asking me if I want to come to a party at her place. Sure, why not? I walk to her house, go inside, and she is the only person there. The lights are dim and the music is on. I knew we were going to fuck and I was so excited. She let me go down on her, which has always been at the top of my fantasy, and she tasted great, but that's where the fun ended. Once we started having sex, she literally just laid there. Did touch me but didn't make a sound, just laid there. I asked if she was alright and she said, yes, don't stop. I tried to change positions but she wasn't into it. I was no longer enjoying this and my guy just gave up. So I got off of her, laid there for a few minutes, then got to leave. I had my pants halfway on when she rolls over, says, no, please Santa, and throws up all over my pants. I stayed the night, due to a lack of pants, and when I woke up in the morning she was staring at me. I asked if everything was okay and she said, did we have sex? My heart stopped and my mind started racing. I was terrified of what was about to come next and also wondering how I could have been so dumb. I was drunk. I said yes and apologized. I got up and told her I would leave. She asked me to stay and said she wanted to discuss this. She ultimately said she wanted to have sex with me but blacked out shortly after I got there. She asked if I wanted to try again, but between the hangover and fear, I could not perform. We are still friends to this day, but I can never look at her the same way again. Story 17. When I was a freshman in college, I thought my fantasy was to be with a guy. I'm also a dude. I had a thing for being submissive, and for some reason I only really thought that could be with a guy. I started messaging on Craigslist and stuff, and the taboo nature of it was actually very exciting. Ended up messaging with this guy who was 45, married and coming for a recruiting trip. He wanted me to come to his hotel. I decided fuck it, I'll do it. Super nervous going over. Finally meet him in his room. It's fairly awkward, but he keeps handing me drinks until I'm very drunk. He gets me naked and then hands me a pair of panties to put on. I'm surprisingly semi-okay with it, but I'm drunk. Right when I feel him behind me with lube, I suddenly decide this isn't for me. But I freeze up and don't want to back out now. I just go through with it despite it being very painful. Literally hurt for days after and felt so embarrassed. I look back on that and can't believe I tried that. I never found men attractive, yet I fucked a guy. My wife likes to be dominant, and that is when I discovered what my actual sexual fantasy was. Reply. Hell of a way to discover you're just heterosexual. Hey, stop. You're awesome. Subscribe for more. Yo.